Welcome back. Investor, author and former advisor to Tony Blair, Charles Steele, joins me now in the studio. Hello, welcome. You've written a new book, The Curious Mind of Elon Musk's 9 Ways He Thinks Differently. And it's timely, this, because we've got this intervention by Musk on Henry Nova.
Yep.
OK, it's a free country. He can say what he likes, and we'll get onto that in a minute. But when you say he thinks differently, I think you've even said that he thinks far more differently than anyone could ever imagine. What do you mean by that?
So I wrote the book because I have a feeling that everyone thinks they know how he thinks.
Yeah.
The people that love him think that he thinks in a certain way, and the people that hate him think that he thinks a certain way. And I think that he thinks in a way that's even more different than you can imagine. And I'll give you one example that just illustrates that, which is he's known for being the richest person in the world.
Yes.
I am convinced that he is the best engineer in the world.
Right.
Bar none, on the whole planet.
Okay.
Different sectors. And no one would think that. Everyone looks at he's so rich, but he's so rich because he's such a good engineer.
Yes.
And why is he such a good engineer? He clearly has terrific cognitive faculties, but he has a very unusual, quirky philosophy, which he himself has described as esoteric. And this is what makes him so driven. And I believe it also explains why he's ventured into politics.
I mean, he's on course to become the world's first trillionaire.
Yeah.
I mean, he's clearly highly successful. Often we associate those levels of wealth with a degree of megalomania. He's obviously accused of that by his left-wing critics who don't like his control of X and things. Is he a megalomaniac?
Undoubtedly, he has a huge ego.
Yes.
Right? Is he driven primarily by greed and pride? I don't think so. He says he's driven by what he calls a religion of curiosity. I think this does set him apart from other business people. You think of someone like Steve Jobs. Was he a megalomaniac? Yes, but did he have other extraordinary talents?
Yes.
So I think I don't think he wakes up every morning thinking, how can I be more powerful? How can I be president of Mars? I think he wakes up thinking, I have 20 different engineering problems I need to solve today. And how do I go about doing that? Because he's so good at doing that, his companies are worth a lot. He owns big stakes in the companies, and therefore he's so rich and powerful.
Yes. He's spoken in the past about having Asperger's syndrome, which is on the autism spectrum.
Yep.
And I wonder, how has his neurodiversity played to his strengths? Obviously, there's this stereotyping about people with autism. They think of Rain Man, they think of savant qualities. But clearly this guy's IQ is through the roof.
Yes.
He's not necessarily a people person. He strikes some as very socially awkward, and yet the engineering brain is working in overdrive.
He would not be who he is without that. It's high-performing autism. I don't think anyone would doubt that he's high-performing. What the characteristic that is also associated with that is not caring what other people think. Now, that's a bit unfair, because autistic people do care what other people think. They often just are not able to show it. But in business, it can be a strength not to care what other people think.
Yeah.
You're not trying to copy your competitor. You're not trying to satisfy your board, please employees. You're just trying to build the best products. OK,
but then if you don't care what people think, then presumably you don't care, for instance, if you make protestations on X that make you unpopular. Wes Streeting suggesting he's a threat to democracy. I'm interested in your perspective on this, because you did once advise Tony Blair. You're writing a book about a man that endorses Tommy Robinson.
So I think it plays directly into the politics. My take on Musk in terms of politics is he's in it for one reason, which is wokeness. Because he's obsessed with the scientific method and being able to criticize people and testing and learning, it's a religion to him. For him, wokeness is the antithesis of that. And so most people are involved in politics. They have about, half a dozen or a dozen issues they care about. He has one. And I think that he aligns himself with the right, and I would go further, tries to push the Overton window to the right.
Yes.
Because he thinks there is a majority that is silent, that doesn't like wokeness, but puts up with it. And I think he thinks you need to get those people, going, and you need people changing what is acceptable discourse in order to do that.
But then is he wielding too much power? Over 40 million followers on X. He owns the website now. You've got people like Wes Streeting saying he's a threat to democracy.
Yeah.
he's wielding enormous amount of power, and it could be controlling the narrative in some way. Look, I'm a free speech advocate, so I just think each to their own. If you don't like what he's saying, go on to Blue Sky or whatever.
Yeah.
But there could be a legitimate complaint that basically a foreigner is trying to wield power over UK politics, stick his nose in when it's not wanted.
Yeah.
He's not an expert on the British police any more than he's an expert on our own parliamentary democracy, is he?
I find it strange, and I'm sure most people do, that a private individual could wield such power. It's extraordinary. And are there any precedents for people being that wealthy and successful in business and having a personal media following? We've had media moguls before, people, businessmen that own newspapers. But he has an extraordinary...
Yeah, social media is different, isn't it?
It's different, right?
Because it's encapsulating so many different people, and we're talking about millions of people on platforms. Newspapers don't have those readerships anymore.
But so I find it unsettling. On the other hand, I can't really fault him for it. There are 200 million people, including some bots, I'm sure, that choose to follow him. Now, what I feel slightly uncomfortable with is that he does sometimes use inflammatory language.
Yes.
And he does sometimes spread misinformation. And maybe there's some Asperger's is a factor in that. But I think he knows what he's doing. I think he's trying to shift the debate. And to put it bluntly, I think he wants British people to feel comfortable to talk about whiteness. Yes. Which is something
not
like my generation, we're not brought up to feel comfortable talking about it.
Charles Steele, we need to leave it there. Your book on Elon Musk is out.